Hi, and welcome to Wise Heart Wellness Scientific Stage Sangha. My name is Nancy Anderson Dolan, and tonight we're talking about anticipation. And I know it's a really corny joke, but I have been anticipating this all week since last Wednesday. And I just got a lovely little nudge about it to talk about this. And anticipation is it's actually defined as let me get exactly an advanced realization of something to come. That's like the dictionary uh, definition, but really it implies a state of advance, either suffering or enjoyment of what we believe is going to come. And we can be in the present moment, even though we're anticipating, if we're in that present moment of anticipating. So it's not a matter of, not being present, because anticipation actually is really enjoyable. Like anticipating going on a trip or anticipating Christmas or whatever it is people might anticipate in that way. And so it can be a really useful thing. We can mindfully take our thoughts towards anticipation, and it can be useful just to organize ourselves, like, oh, it would be really nice if I brought this for the Christmas dinner, or it would be really great if I could visit this person while I was on holidays. And that sort of thing sort of weaves our lives together from one event to another. Now we can get the other way going. And the other way is sort of anxious anxiety, anticipation, I mean. And literally, there is a term called anticipation anxiety. And what that is when it is sort of like 3 levels deep of fearfulness. And so the example that's used is that I'm afraid of a bee. And I'm afraid of a bee because I anticipate I could be stung by a bee. But then if I'm afraid of being stung by a bee, I anticipate that, I shouldn't even go camping at all. I won't go out in the woods because I'm afraid I'll get panicked by getting attacked by a bee and getting stung. And so it leads to a lot of avoidance of things and missing out on things because our brains get so far down the road of this anticipatory anxiety that we actually don't do things. We limit ourselves. And I have worked with a number of clients that have had that problem. And recently I was just talking to a young woman. We were talking about her looking for a different job than the one she had. And she started talking reasonably and was saying, yeah, I don't know, it'd be so much work to look for a job. So a little anticipatory, it's not going to go well. And then it was like, well, and how do I know if I'd even like it? And then if I take something, I'd be missing out on all the other things. And how can I possibly make a decision? So I'm going to have to just work in the hospitality industry the rest of my life. And I'm like, whoa, that was a really big trip we just took. But our brains can get away on us like that so easily. And the other sort of far extreme might be positive anticipation, but to the point that you don't pay attention and take the steps you need to move into this anticipated future. And it's just, oh yeah, it's all going to be great, and that'll be when I'm this, I'll do this. And it starts really, really young. Little kids want to go to school when their older siblings do. And then when the older sibling actually gets to go out on their own, the little kids want to do that. And then when they learn to drive and so on and so forth, when I'm married, when I'm, that sort of thing, when I'm done school, and not actually live in the present moment of it. So what I'm proposing here is a little bit different kind of anticipatory experience, and it really is one that we can practice. The research on this is so clear that when we anticipate things in this positive manner and we sort of savor it beforehand, we actually improve our current cognitive and physiological state. So we're happier and we sort of think clearer, and when we're turned in this positive direction. Now, then if we go along and we actually have that and we enjoy it, and it's even people talk about the anticipation is just as much fun as the vacation, say. And it really is this not trying to force the future. That's expectation. When you're actually just taking the future and like, this is how it's going to be. And that expectation, often we get disappointed because there's never a sure thing. And there's a lovely group of people called Redeeming Grace, and they talk about this very specific thing. I'm going to read you what they say about it. They say anticipation is looking forward with excitement to what is coming, resting in the assurance that it will be good regardless of what form it takes. And expectation is projecting an imagined reality onto the future. And so anticipation is sort of a friendlier place to be, basically. And these guys are talking about, you're not God and running the world. You're not in charge of the universe, but that you believe that you can enjoy what's coming because there will be good things coming. Actually, my little poster over here, I first learned this phrase in about 1996, I think. And it was in a professional training I was involved in. I'd been a social welfare worker, and I had left that job and I was looking for retrainings. They sent us all to these professional things. And this was one of the really important things. And it was in an actual tape of what the trainer was teaching us. Brian Tracy is his name, and he's still a famous trainer of time management and all sorts of things. And it talks about just imagining that something wonderful is about to happen. And when I was a little older and I had my kids, I would play that tape all the time first thing in the morning to keep my anticipation positive. And so from the back seat, I would hear these little voices say, I think something wonderful is going to happen. It was so lovely. And that was the wonderful thing already. And then the rest of the day was just bonus. But we really can train into this positive anticipation. And we have to train out of negative anticipation sometimes. I was working with some lovely young addicts, and I was talking to one of them, and we were talking about, what do you worry about? And she was saying that the thing she bumps up against that keeps her out of being present is thinking everything is going to be too hard. And I was like, oh, what? And I said, then the next part of the question was, well, what do you do about those things? And she says, well, I sit and I remember that I have been through some pretty hard things. And I'm like, that is so brilliant. And she was also thinking about, her resources. I've been through these hard things and I did this and I just worked through it, or I just got curious about it and stayed with it, and all sorts of interesting things like that. And in fact, there's research that says if we can talk to ourselves in that manner, we can generate this positive anticipation even in difficult situations, even in things that we might think are problems for us. But this idea of, I have some good coping skills, or I'm very creative in dealing with things. And so, when someone just had this experience, they were going to finally go on this big trip, and it was really hard for them to go. And they got as far as, it's about, an hour from the city we're in, and they blew a tire. And nobody in the town could help them with a tire before that night. And they were supposed to be in Vancouver the next day, and all this was going on. And this person was practicing positive anticipation because she had a lot of anxiety, but she just was overcome by this. But there was one more moment she thought about, and she thought, I'll phone my mom. And her mom got a dealer to deal with the car and get the flat tire fixed, and they were on the road, and she was on her holiday. But so when we think about the supports that we have, I know people that know things that can help me. I'm willing to reach out. All of those kinds of things can help us stay in this positive anticipation. And it's obviously a lot harder for people that have a lot of difficult experiences, or clinical kinds of disorders like depression and anxiety. and those kinds of things. And brain chemistry has a lot to do with this as well. But even with all of those kind of factors, learning this process, it's just like learning to do a dance step. We can actually learn it like that and have a process that we go through to pull ourselves out of negativity and that negative expectation and the anxiety that sort of cascades with it and can shut us down from actually trying things out. And the other part of it is opens us up to things that we might not have tried otherwise. Because if we think about, oh, I'm going to go learn to line dance, I might think, oh, I'll make a fool of myself, or, I won't be able to keep up because they'll all be younger than me, or, it'll take too much time. But I can come back and go, wait, what if? What if? And the last line in the email of this week talking about this has this in it. It's from a New York Post article. And it says, what if it's all an adventure? And so when I think about things like that, going into business on my own was very much like that. And I was just like, what if it's an adventure? And it has been. Each new step has been an adventure. So there's this idea that we can really move forward and not do what's called bleeding before you're cut kind of anxiety, anticipatory anxiety like that. So it really is important to understand that we can do that and practice this way of being in the world here. And even like right now, it's going to be fall in where I live. And there, I have this bit of negative anticipatory thing about it's going to get darker and it's going to get colder and that sort of thing. But I can get up in the morning and go, oh, it's cooler because it's been very hot here this summer. I can take my mind and go that way with it. Mm-hmm. And so that is really, really important. If I think about those kinds of things, to go and really learn that I can change what I'm feeling, change what I'm thinking in this way. And it's not like it's something that I will be punished for if I don't do it, because in our culture, lots of people have this anticipatory negativity, whether it's about, politics, or if you go to a party, it's way easier to get people talking animatedly about negative things, whether they're in the past, in the future. And right now, with all the things that are going on and our knowledge of all the things that are going on, that's one of the things that's changed, where before people in a remote little village would just be living happily because they didn't know about all the other things that were going on. But now we know so much about all the negative things because those are presented daily to us. And in a way that they're saying, make sure you are ready for this. But we actually don't get the anticipatory things. Maybe there's a sort of like a public service announcement on the news at the last part. Yes, there's going to be this big celebration in this city, and we'd love you to come. It's going to be great. But it's 1% as opposed to 99% of the other part. And so it really is filling our own minds with that positive anticipatory attitude, orienting ourselves that way to have that positive anticipatory attitude, and really even managing it for children. And I know a mom that had 6 children, and she would tell them every day, we're going on an adventure. And she would get them all dressed and on the bus and off they go. And she had these children that were incredibly positive about things, and they didn't have much, and they didn't get to do some of the things that other kids got to do, but they were always in this positive anticipation of whatever was happening, approaching the next thing with this positive anticipation. And the last idea that I'll introduce, that actually wasn't in the email, is about our capacity to tolerate failure and disappointment. So if something doesn't go the way we expect it to, that we can shift gears, we can adapt, we can release that, let it go. And so back to these guys with the redeeming grace, they talk about a posture of positive anticipation. And so that whatever happens, they will be present and positive about it. So, if there is a death in the family, they'll be together helping each other, and that will be a positive part of that experience. They're choosing to not ignore negative things. They're not ignoring that they've lost a family member, but they're actually coming together as a group in a positive manner to move through this life event. And so that's another little skill set about how we manage failure. If we manage failure by going, oh, well, that didn't work out so well, I wonder what else we could do now. Or if we, everything is going to go bad from now on. So the negative expectation sort of blooms. So it's a very interesting word, and it carries generally a positive tone to it. And when people are talking about anticipation, there is a connotation to it that it is about something positive. But I would invite people to try this on and take it into your everyday life, and in all things, not just on the things you think might be really, really fun or really, really good for you. But just think that something wonderful might happen at any moment. Okay. So thank you for the people that have joined me live tonight. We're going to do a short meditation contemplation as usual. And I'm going to invite you to practice a little positive anticipation. And so I want you to think about something that's coming up, and it could be something that you're already a little pumped for, that you're positively anticipating, or it could be something that is not going to, that you're not sure about, okay? Or it could even be something that you're kind of feeling negative about. And I'll invite you to do this meditation. Feel free to get comfortable, turn your camera off if you want, don't have to. And just think about that thing that you're anticipating. And what I want you to remember to do is not cast it in stone. And it's sort of feeling for the possibilities. Feeling that, my life is unfolding in positive ways. And gathering this event sort of towards you. And it's like fondling a Christmas present you think you might get. And so you go along and you think that, this could be really fun. I wonder, how much time I'll get to be doing this. I wonder what kinds of things, maybe you're going away, what kinds of things will I see? Or what kind of a positive impact will this have on me? Anticipatory enjoyment is a lot like Winnie the Pooh. He talks about eating honey. And Winnie the Pooh talks about that point before you actually eat the honey, that you're thinking about eating the honey. That is maybe even better. And that idea of like that warm feeling in your body that comes up when we anticipate this positive thing. And just notice, if you're working with a negative, be very gentle, not to push things away, but it's like rearranging furniture. Bring some possible positive moments forward and put the possible negative ones just a little further back behind the other furniture. And go, so I'm positively anticipating walking my dogs at some point as my broken ankles heal. And I can just imagine their little furry bums running along in front of me. And I can imagine just being outside like that and being able to move around freely. And I can imagine them being so happy to be back walking at the park with me. And now there may be some negative things, like maybe it's going to be painful, or maybe it's going to be colder by the time I get to go and do that. But I'm simply going to take my attention off them. Know that if I go and it's painful and I have to stop walking, we'll do that. And then we'll be able to go again at some other point. So there are these things we do with these possible anticipatory events. And like I say, we're just sort of rearranging, like on a TV set, choosing to feel different parts of it. Like for my walk, I'll feel the sun on my face. Maybe it's going to be cold out, maybe it's going to be hot, I don't know. But I can imagine that I will enjoy being out. And I can imagine being at the park with all the other happy dog people. So just weave for yourself this pattern, this picture. And I encourage you not to make it static, like it's got to go like this, or I won't have any fun. But just like, oh, this might happen, and that would be, and that would feel good. Like massaging a tight muscle, loosening it up to all the possibilities. Oh, just take a deep breath and feel that. And let it settle right into your body. You might feel some expansiveness in your body. Often that's what it feels like. Often there's a chemical change because we imagine this. Our faces actually smile, and when our faces smile, we release a good chemical in our body that makes us feel better. So just let that feeling move through your whole body. Take up residence in your body. Okay. And for those of you with me live, I'll just close for people watching this later, and we'll commence discussion in a moment. So for those of you watching, again, thank you so much. Please feel free to send comments, suggestions, donations, questions to scientistsage@gmail.com. I am with you. You are with me. Blessed be. Good night.